I feel like I'm about to watch
Blast
the making of Tron. That's what this is like. Dun. Or you know what it is? This is the music for the background of a planetarium show from the 80s.
Oh,
yeah.
Laser Light Show.
Yes, laser light.
Everybody.
Pink Floyd laser lights now at the Strassenberg Planetarium.
Yeah,
See, there it is. There it is. People are wondering what are we listening
80s sci-fi?
to? That's awesome. Well, hello, sports fans. This is Chris, your host, and this is Monkey
Thank
Business.
God he's back.
Yes. Last week, Tanya had to start the show off on her own, and I listened to it already twice, and I think she's phenomenal. And I think that's it. You know what? I'm going to quit at this point.
You better not.
I'm going to hand the
knees.
podcast over to her, and she's going to be amazing.
No.
And she's going to take you the rest of the way for the next 15 years of podcasts.
Yeah. Your knees are broken. I'm not going to silence you whatsoever. I'll just break your knees.
Tanya, can you drive me home today?
Because apparently my knees are broken, so I can't reach the pedals. All right, so
Billy will.
Sports fans, this is Chris. I am, as usual, I'm in the studios with Billy and Tanya. On the phone with us is the ever-lovely and ever-present Sherry. Hello. To my left, the panel of Three Stooges, my son Ian, my not-son Zach.
Hello.
And my old not-brother Rob.
Hello.
I'm the handsome one.
He's the handsome. I don't think Zach's actually going to argue with you on that
I
one.
believe that would be what you call damning by faint praise. And if you just include us three, I'm probably the smart one.
Well, there's that.
And a bit like sandblasting a soup cracker.
My boy is going into his freshman year of high school.
It's all downhill from here.
All downhill from
I'm
there.
fine with that.
Mine graduated.
Everybody needs a good
Barely.
background something.
The school didn't want him back.
Wait, what's going on?
Hey, come on. Mine just finished her first year of college, so I got you beat.
Well, at least,
Yeah. Just stop right there, Ian.
Okay.
I'm adorable.
Today is our first day of our book club.
This is it. The Mighty Monkey Book Club is going to start today with this particular podcast.
I'm not happy with Billy.
And so you, my dear listeners, may ask, well, what is going to be the Mighty Monkey Book Club? This was Billy DeTore's brainchild, and I thought it was phenomenal.
Actually, let me give a credit to a podcast I listened to called Movie Sign with the Mads.
Okay.
It's Frank Conniff and Trace Beaulieu and comedian Carolina Hidalgo. And they do a podcast.
Weren't those those guys? They were in the original
Mystery Science
Theater 2000.
They're Clayton Forrester and TV's Frank.
Right.
And they do a podcast where they do sort of what we're going to do. They go to the movies and they come back and they talk about whatever movie that was, but they're very specific about that movie. So I figure, well, we watch a lot of stuff. But,
yes, we do.
Up until now, we've been sort of more. What's the word I'm looking for?
I'm not sure.
We've given more of an overview. Of
we do a lot of surface chats.
The Star Trek universe, or more general about Doctor Who and the DC universe and the Marvel universe, and we don't narrow in on stuff. So let's narrow in on a couple things, our favorite things.
So at least once a month, we're going to dig in and we're going to rip something to pieces and go with it. Now, give me some rules of the road. We're going to be throwing spoilers around, I'm assuming?
Yes, that's one thing you should know is that we're going to spoil the F out of this.
Yeah. So whatever we're talking
this
about,
may not be family friendly.
Yeah. So listeners,
episode.
basically, whatever we're talking about, you got to be prepared for the fact that we're going to talk about every nuance of it, including any big twists at the end and such.
So if you haven't watched, for instance, this episode is about Season 2, Episode 2 of The Black Mirror. The name of the episode is White Bear. So if you haven't watched it, put this on pause, go watch it, and come back.
Yes, because we're gonna be talking about all details. So that's something that's always been kind of like a personal thing for me. I don't like throwing spoilers around because I don't know if I'm going to ruin something for anybody. So you have been duly warned, friends and family. And fans out in Piedmont, Italy, thank you. Viva l'Italia.
Italy has a town named Piedmont?
Piedmont, yep. It's I don't know exactly where it is. I think it's close to the heel of the boot.
No
of Italy.
Kidding.
Yeah, and somebody on our Spreaker channel
is there a city in Illinois called Roma?
I believe so, actually.
Florence?
Yep.
Florence, Illinois.
Florence, Illinois.
Okay.
Well,
we have Mexico, New York.
Rome, New York, Cuba, New York.
Yeah.
Rome, New York.
Rome,
Mexico, New York.
There's a place in Greece.
Yep.
Yeah, Greece.
Yeah, we have Greece. All right, so anyway, we're going to talk about Black Mirror, the TV show it's BBC produced. It's on Netflix right now, so you can find it. As Billy has talked about in several occasions in the past, this is definitely a favorite for him. and the Black Mirror is look at your phone when it's off. You have that black screen, your TV screen, your computer screen, your tablets. That's the Black Mirror. It's the reflection of society through technology. And now I have not watched a lot of the episodes of this. I've only seen White Bear because I wanted to be ready for this particular conversation. But I can safely tell you that if all the other episodes were written like this one, this
and they mostly are.
Holy Moses, this is an interesting show.
To me, it's an excellent show.
Yeah, this is a very interesting show.
It's a very polarizing show.
Yeah, and Tanya already she was telling me how her opinion of the episode that we're going to be talking about today, and so White Bear, it starts off. Yeah, and it's funny because in the description, on Wikipedia, it makes reference to a dystopian view of the future, and apparently that suits me. Hey, Wayne, this is the shout out for you, buddy. It's another dystopian thing for me. So
you like those?
I do. So this episode starts out with this young lady. She comes to. She's sitting in a chair. She's ragged and haggard, and confused and not knowing where she's going. And there's some weird symbols going on the TV, and there's all sorts of really weird imagery. There's not a lot of conversation going on in the actual episode right off the bat. Mm-hmm. And so it's this person who's kind of coming to grips with the fact that her memory, she's lost her memory.
She doesn't know who she is.
She does not know who she is.
All she knows, she's in a house. There's a picture of her with another guy, a little girl, and she leaves the house, and there's people following her.
Yes,
and it's very.
She's trying to figure out where she is,
and nobody's talking to her. They're filming her with their cameras, their camera phones. You see people standing in windows pointing their smartphones at her.
They're not talking to her.
Nobody's
she talks
talking
to them. They won't answer.
It's just like they're just filming, and it just so you're getting this situation like this is almost like a Twilight Zone episode to a particular degree. Did you guys get a chance to see it? No, I'm going to turn my back on.
I
go ahead.
I watched it.
Okay, so here we are, and this so as it unfolds,
you start feeling like sympathetic to the main character in there because you go right into her shoes because you're like, how come they're not helping her? How come this? She doesn't know who she is, and she's trying to figure this out, and you're definitely sympathizing with her,
right,
in regards to her plight.
And you sort of put yourself in her position,
right? And you get this whole like, well, look how far we've come as a society, or look how far we've fallen as a society. These people are more interested in filming this poor woman's trials and tribulations than they are actually reaching out to help her. This is a statement,
and you're not even sure. Actually, the time period's close because it looks like now, but you don't. It could be a few years off, a few years in the future. Things could have changed society. The city's definitely quiet. There's not a whole lot going on in
right. It seemed just to me that
it's almost sort of zombie-esque.
Right.
Yeah.
That whatever. I'm sure there's been other shows or movies or whatever that there's been a signal or something that has affected people, but like, kind of like the zombie virus.
Actually,
and
I thought of the Stephen King novel Cell.
I was just going to say that it smacks of Cell to me.
Okay,
and that they're all like fixated on this, and that that these people are kind of immune, and the person, and then the main character, the woman, that she's like starting to. Some of that stuff is wearing off, and she's not affected as much. And
right, that's the impression
that.
you're getting. You're getting that whole thing like she's going to be part of the resistance or something. She's going to be the new hero.
So it's kind of like that type of thing.
Yeah.
And so you're like watching it, and you're like, how come this is not happening? And how come
she's starting to go into a blind panic? And then the car pulls up.
Yeah.
You see this car pull up in the background, and this guy gets out, and he's got a ski mask on, and the ski mask is black, but it has that symbol that was on the TV at the beginning painted on the front of it. And he very calmly gets out, goes into the trunk of his car, pulls out a shotgun, and starts chasing our hero. And so, right off the bat, you're like, well, what the hell's going on? And then all of a sudden you see this happen, and you're like, well, now, wait a second. Now, what was this guy's problem?
And then there's all these people on either side of the street filming.
They're filming it.
Directly behind the guy with the gun. Like, distance, you and I are about, 5 feet away.
Yeah.
But that's the distance they are to this, and just following him to get like an over-the-shoulder perspective of what he's seeing.
Exactly.
And it just kind of like had the feeling of someone's running a race. And
Yeah.
you have all the spectators like cheering them on but they were doing it silently.
I don't know if anybody, because at this moment in time, I got flashbacks to Arnold Schwarzenegger's The Running Man.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, that's what I was thinking.
Did you ever read the book?
Yes,
I never did read the book.
Completely different from the movie.
I'm sure it's completely different. Yeah,
but
book-wise, it reminds me more. Was it The Long Walk?
Yeah, the one where they just have that marathon for.
Yeah, and if you slow down too much, they pick you off, and you're supposedly winning. But it kind of
a lot
like
of Stephen King comparisons.
Yeah. And it kind of is like that because everybody's watching, but nobody's going to help you.
Yeah, I mean, he takes a shot at her. Yeah. And everybody's just they didn't even flinch.
Yeah,
right.
They didn't
even flinch. They just kept recording.
That's made me think that they were like zombified.
Right.
Yeah, because there was no reaction one way or the other.
And I'm
the weird
sorry
thing.
because even if a shotgun went off, someone is gonna flinch just because of the sound of it.
Yeah, but it's almost like they expected it.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Where I was going at that moment was this whole idea of we can, but being distanced by seeing things through a lens.
Okay.
It didn't actually affect them because they weren't actually looking at it.
They were looking at it through their
I've seen
cameras.
Several things where they've discussed that thing is it's a distancing thing. If I'm not actually looking at it, I'm seeing it through a lens. It's not really happening.
You see, and you know what? I know that feeling intimately because there are times where, like, if the kids were on stage for a school play or something like that, and I would record them, and I would find myself watching the video. I would be watching the screen on my phone to make sure that I had everything in frame, but then I suddenly felt like I was detached from the actual event. So I'd look up away from the phone, and suddenly I'm back in the room, and I'm back watching the children firsthand, and that kind of threw me off. I remember I've shut my phone off on several occasions because I'd rather watch the child in action than watch the camera recording them. So that kind of you suddenly now you're focusing on that perspective.
Didn't even think of it.
See, that's what I'm here is to offer that kind of thing.
I have my disconnect days like that where I just try to stay off everything to just go for a walk, get humanity because it just becomes you can get too caught up with the computer. It becomes sort of in that little fantasy world.
And actually, I go to a lot of concerts and stuff, and nowadays people seem more interested and capturing what's literally right in front of them and watching it through their little screen than
actually enjoying what's happening.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
They want to watch it later.
Rather than live it. But if you're there, you're going to remember it because you're sitting there watching it.
Yeah.
And, obviously video, to go back to what we were saying, video just doesn't have the same effect.
No.
Because it doesn't seem real because you're watching it on a screen.
So that's what kind of made it a little stranger that the people weren't really reacting to.
Well, I was getting angry with them. I was getting angry with the crowd. I'm like, because as I was saying, well, that's it. I mean, it's at the beginning of this particular conversation, I was making a point of saying it's really kind of a commentary on how far have we fallen as a people that this is happening.
And that's what I was wondering. Like, is this just going to be a 44-minute long social commentary about people recording things rather than wanting to actually help?
Help somebody.
Yeah, you see videos of it all the time. If there's a car accident, you see 9 people with a phone videoing it rather than one of them using their phone to call an ambulance.
That they're accessories to something that they're recording it instead of like helping out on any situation.
I was at a house fire recently because I work for the city as an inspector, and there was a full burn going on in the area that I work in. And, there's the trucks, and the police are trying to cordon off the area, and sure enough, there's the half a dozen obligatory neighbors that got their phones out, and they're recording it. Guys, do you give a damn?
It's like, how sad and heartless do you have to be to record somebody's tragedy?
Okay. So my anger with these people in this episode is starting to build at this point, at this stage.
Then we find a couple people that, like the woman that woke up groggy, there's a couple people that aren't affected by the phone thing or whatever.
We find
a couple.
We find a couple, a man and a woman
who try and help her.
They try to. Well, they're kind of like rescue her. It almost like it's like they're
reluctant rescue.
She happened to be along the way.
There. Yeah,
so they
seem
rescue her.
to be like the Rick Grimes group that are coming to do a Walking Dead reference. Affected by the zombieism.
Right. So, and now they're being hunted. And, this guy with the shotgun is hunting them as well as our heroine, the young lady. Yeah. And they get trapped in a...
Do we want to just use her name to make it easier?
Well, you don't find out her name until the very end.
It's the woman.
But we could just use it.
We'll just call it's Victoria. Victoria. We'll call her Victoria.
Victoria.
All right. Yeah. So Victoria, and then did we ever find out names for the other?
Jem and
Baxter.
Jem and Baxter?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So Jem and Baxter arrive on scene to rescue Victoria, and they wind up at a convenience store gas station.
Oh, no, Jem and Damien. Sorry, Baxter is the one that has the van later.
Okay. And so Jem and Damien, they rescue our girl, and they get blocked up in this convenience store.
How convenient.
Yeah. And
Oh, God. I'm too busy paying attention to the conversation.
There it is.
Come on, I threw that one up.
I know, but I was paying attention to us, and
so now the tension's rising because you see now there's 3 people that are at risk here, and the crowds are. This guy is continuing to hunt them with a shotgun.
And then all the crowds around him.
They're filming this.
They're filming him instead of taking him down. I'm like, why?
Yeah,
or calling the police.
What is going on here? And then Jem finds a way to get out the back door. She takes Victoria with her. And Baxter stays behind because the guy with the shotgun breaks into the building, and Baxter, begrudgingly, Damien takes this guy on, and off screen you hear the gunshot, and
then he comes stumbling out.
He comes stumbling out the back door, clutching his stomach, and he falls over. He falls over dead, and people come up and start filming him laying there.
What are you going to do with this video anyway?
I know, seriously. They're going to post it to their social media so everybody can see, hey, we watched this. So it's like, okay, this is seriously. I'm going to say it.
It's also
this is seriously messed up.
Yeah. And that's where the woman Jem starts explaining that the signals on the TV and all over the internet that they turn the population into those passive voyeurs that do nothing but record everything around them. And it kind of references a lot of things that happen in society, that people are just passively recording everything. And not doing anything to help out.
And then there's the evil people, the guy with the shotgun, and later we see a guy with a creepy goat mask.
Yeah,
and if you watch wrestling,
with the carving knife, or
the girl with the carving
knife and the axe?
It's like an axe or a baseball bat or something.
If you watch wrestling, there's a guy named Eric Rowan who wrestles in that same goat mask.
Oh, goody!
So Google Eric Rowan and you'll see what. One of the zombie-esque.
So Victoria and Jem are able to get away.
Yes.
And they come across now Baxter
the guy
in a
who
van.
Not Damien.
No,
it's
Damien's dead.
Damien's now dead.
Damien, put the dog down, Damien. Anyway.
Damien's dead. And so now they get away from the village or wherever it is, and they are taking a break.
And at this point,
and now they're in the woods.
Victoria has the feeling she's met Baxter before, but not sure why
and she's now starting
where.
to get little flashbacks.
Yeah,
right. So
she's
you're wondering what kind of superpower she's got.
Little things, and
she's starting to remember things little by little.
And then they're like, "Uh-oh."
There's one point that Jem makes that we haven't mentioned yet.
Yeah,
and that was when Victoria asks her when she's explaining about what about those people? Did it make them evil? And she states, no, we think that they were always like that, but once all the constraints were off, once there were no rules anymore.
Right. Yeah, I do remember that.
Let this out, and once they had an audience.
Mm-hmm. I remember that conversation. So it wasn't just, it wasn't. Is that almost like Purge-like?
Yeah.
To a particular degree, like, oh, okay, I don't have any rules, right? I can do whatever I want.
Except 24/7.
Yeah, something like that. So, I mean, it's strange. And now you're like, okay, what am I watching? Is this like, some sort of post-apocalyptic nightmare going on here?
Because it's not an overly populated town.
No.
There aren't a ton of cars. It seems like Jem has and Baxter have the only vehicles that you've seen to this point. And it's not like the whole town is crawling with the phone video people. There's a lot of them, but not like a city's worth. So,
well, if they're all on their phones, let's say the rest of the world is, what car protection would there be?
It's true. Well, the Lexus line is almost completely automated now. So,
well, and with the way everybody was, it kind of had a feeling. And then when I got on Wikipedia, it's like, okay, I'm not the only one that felt that. Kind of had just with the way the people were viewing it, the Wicker Man kind of thing to it.
Okay, yeah.
What's the Wicker Man?
Watch the original one with Christopher Lee, not the one with Nick Cage.
Dad, I need to watch the Wicker Man.
Okay, apparently the one with Christopher Lee.
Homework.
That's your homework.
Yeah, watch the Wicker Man.
When in doubt at pagan festivals, don't be the guest of honor. They have a burning desire to see you, though.
Oh, okay, there we go.
Good.
I didn't even get that one.
That's fine.
Guys, my husband just came out and is sitting with me now, and I put it on speaker so he could hear this conversation because he watched the show with me yesterday.
I'm sorry for
and
you.
he just made a comment about it's the internet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, essentially.
Well, we know what the internet's really for.
Porn?
No, and I'm on Wikipedia right now, and right now they're saying it's the most intense watch from start to finish, and it's an episode that undoubtedly packs the biggest emotional punch, and so far it has. It's like you have been drawn into this person's plight. And that you feel bad that like now there's someone that's willing to help her and getting through. And
but Jem is giving that whole like Terminator, I'm Sarah Connor from the Resistance kind of thing. I could give a shit about you really, whether you live or die.
We're just
I'm just using you.
Yeah, I'm going. You're along for the ride now. We've got shared interests. At
She's
this
almost
point.
a reluctant savior.
Yeah, That's the feeling I'm getting. And then when
she comes back, and I'm like, oh.
Yeah, and when they get trapped in the woods by Baxter, who turns out to be one of the hunters, and then Jem runs off. You're like, okay, the last we're going to see of her, and now what's going to happen to our heroine? And then Jem comes circling around and rescues Victoria.
But she wanted her backpack.
That's right. She wanted her backpack. This happened to be convenient, So it's like, oh, okay.
You see any elements of the prisoner in it?
A little bit.
Yeah. I hadn't thought of that.
Now that you mention it, yeah. And there's a show we should probably throw up on the book club one of these days. That would be fun.
I really bonded with Rover at the con.
Yeah, you did. Yeah.
Unfortunately, there was no Rover in this episode.
No, there was no Rover in this episode of Black Mirror. All right, so things start kind of unraveling quickly, is what I'm noticing at this point. And you're going to have to, somebody's going to have to help me how she got out of the forest to where she ended up, because I don't remember some of that.
Well, they went back to the van and drove. They continued to
Jem
drive.
killed Baxter,
right?
And they wound up. They were going to go to this white bear
transmitter,
where it was. This is where
that's okay.
The similarity to Cell, the Stephen King book, because they were all heading towards one area, or Walking Dead, even where they were trying to get to one of the
sanctuary or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. They're all trying to get to an area where they may be able to turn off the transmitter.
So they're trying to get to the transmitter at White Bear to destroy it and stop the signals area.
Right.
The effect on that particular area and things like that.
And meanwhile, Victoria's still having her little flashes of, including of a gentleman who we assume at some point was her husband or boyfriend and their child.
Right. And that's the thing. She's always focusing on the picture of the daughter, the picture of the little girl. And so while they're...
And then your heart breaks for them because thinking that was the little girl taken, was whatever, what... type thing, and you're starting to sense there's something going on in the little those flashes of memory are coming back and
short stories.
Yeah, then they break into the transmitter area, and they're trying to dismantle the transmitter or stop the transmitter, and two hunters find them, the one with the carving knife and the one with the baseball bat, who suddenly has a shotgun himself, and a scuffle begins, and it looks like Jem, our battle-hardened hero, she's been incapacitated by the girl with the carving knife.
And I found part of that unbelievable when she's throwing the gasoline on all the electronics equipment, things like that. I'm like, wouldn't like a liquid
just
hitting
the liquid itself
would
be enough
start
to destroy
sparking
it.
and things like that. And that's what made me stop and think and go,
wait a second.
something is
about to start unraveling here.
Working out.
And as someone that sits by right now, I'm behind a radio board. Trust me, one drop of water in one of these things will take this thing off the air.
Oh, I'm sure. Sure.
So we're always very careful around this.
Yeah. So I'm just like, I know liquid and electronics don't mix, so I can't believe that didn't start sparking initially. I'm like, so that was my thing going, okay, something really is going on here.
Yeah, and it happens very quickly because the whole sequence is like maybe 45 seconds long.
Because Victoria winds up with
a shotgun.
With the shotgun.
And she pulls the trigger. And instead of a shotgun shell coming out and taking out the hunter, it's a confetti bomb. And then all of a sudden, the panel opens up behind her, and there's an audience, and they're applauding and cheering and screaming. And
I'm like, okay, so this was a play.
And that Victoria was definitely not in on.
Right. I'm like, right. This
and you
is
can tell
play.
by the look in her eye that something was horribly wrong here. And this is where your what the hell meter just goes pegged.
Right.
At this point, like, what is going on here? Sherry, what was your reaction when you saw that? And then Zach, I'm going to ask you the same question.
I was very confused.
I was confused
wasn't
for the
sure
whole
where
thing.
they were going with it, but I started getting a little bit of a Clockwork Orange vibe.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Now that you mentioned that, I can. Okay. So like, it's the government agency that had taken Malcolm McDowell's character aside in Clockwork Orange and was trying to program him. Now you're seeing that's kind of that same familiar feel to it in this.
I was kind of, I'm like, okay, what are they? But I was not going in the direction that it eventually went.
Mm-hmm.
I was going in they were trying to desensitize her,
mm-hmm.
to make her like all of them.
Okay. But then you find out what's going on, and they pull her onto the stage, and there's all these people, and the rest of them, the hunters and Jem, and all these people are coming out. They're all taking bows like they're in a theater play.
All the people that had been killed you'd seen previously.
Yeah, they start popping up.
Yeah.
And that's what. And then she was like strapped down to a chair, and I'm just like, what the hell is going on?
And this is when you find out what has happened.
It turns out she wasn't a victim. Well, that's up for discussion whether she's a victim or not.
Well, the reason that she is the victim.
She was a killer. Her and the gentleman that she had been having in flashback in the child, turns out that the couple had kidnapped the child and brutally murdered them.
And wasn't it because she stood by and filmed it?
Filmed her actions on
and
the
laughed
phone.
and
So she didn't actually take part in the killing of the child.
But she was an accessory
She
to
was
the
an
crime.
accessory. Right. She recorded it. And she was a gleeful bystander while this was all happening. And the man she was having flashbacks of that you were getting the impression was her husband was the actual murderer. Mm-hmm. And the girl that you were thinking was her daughter was actually the victim of the crime itself. So their punishment for this woman is in essence finding a way to wipe her brain, giving her amnesia, and then putting her in this situation time and time again. One of the early scenes you see she's looking at a calendar, and it's an October calendar, and there's 18 days have been checked off. And during the closing credits of this, the people who are producing this show go in and they check off another day. So that's the next day of October. Okay. But you find out that this whole thing has been put together. This is a penitentiary village or something like that?
It's basically a TV studio.
Think of the Truman Show. Think of the Truman Show with Jim Carrey. Yeah. But on a smaller scale, and all for the benefit of punishing this woman over and over and over again. They're making her relive this experience.
And not just punishing her, though, but making it a piece of entertainment for everyone else.
Yes.
And then you see...
That's what I found the most disturbing.
Yeah, that's the part that I couldn't stand.
Yeah, it actually became part of the entertainment.
Well, and then at the end you also see people swapping places. Like the people that were crucified on the trees, they come down and somebody else goes up.
The next set of actors goes up. Yeah. They bring in the next set of audience
to be a part of the show.
Yeah, that was, I think, the part that bothered me the most.
Now, here's the thing, and I've heard many people say this over the years. When you have a specifically heinous or a particularly heinous crime that has been committed upon, a family or children, or upon the innocents, somebody will invariably say, no, I don't want to execute this person. I want them to sit in a jail cell with pictures and TV showing videos of their victims over and over every day for the rest of their life. I want them to see what they have done and what they have caused other people to lose. And then it's almost like, this is almost like a version of that. And so suddenly you've gone from and this is where I'm having a hard time, is because now I'm switching from having sympathy for this person, this Victoria, and all these commentaries you want to make about society and how far we've fallen, like I was saying earlier in this conversation. And now here we are saying, now we're seeing society using this situation as a punishment, and look at what the heinous thing this woman has done.
But the difference here is that she's having her memory wiped. She has no memory of what she's done. Mm-hmm. All this is pure torture.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And what is so
cruel and unusual punishment is what you're saying.
Yeah. Well, not only is this woman being tortured for a crime she has no memory of, but what is it doing to the people who are now involved in this? This has become fun. This has become, have a good time. Make sure you're having a good time. When you're watching it and they're videotaping, they have these huge smiles.
Oh, that's right. There's the list of rules.
Yeah.
During the closing credits, they do a cutscene. Yeah.
Keep your distance, but enjoy
Don't
yourself.
Talk.
Don't talk to her.
Don't talk to each other. Don't talk to her. But just most of all, enjoy yourself. And that was kind of a disturbing little commandment that the producers gave to the audience. Is just, we'll just have fun with it. This is going to be fun.
And how many other places are doing this?
Yeah, that's a question you want to ask yourself then. So here we are. You see this whole kind of gamut of emotions. From the way it unfolds from the beginning to the end. You have sympathy and anxiety in one place, and then all of a sudden it kind of flip-flops, but then you have to go back and forth, wondering where really this show is going to stop and make you think. It's going to make you wonder. It's going to make you try to kind of put yourself in a particular position and where you want to, how you want to look at this.
Like a good TV show should do.
Yeah, well.
Did this all start, this type of entertainment start when we followed O.J. Simpson in his white Bronco?
Ooh, that's a fair question.
Rollback.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're absolutely right because the news made us a part of it.
And there were people on bridges cheering OJ on and other people.
I hadn't even considered that.
I just thought of it, to be honest with you.
That's actually brilliant because then it not only, because normally when we look at cases like that, we don't see that there's a person behind it, but basically they humanized it. And it drew us into it. It's like, wait a minute, I remember because now a lot of people can say, I remember where I was when I was watching the Bronco chase.
Yeah, I was at the call center at Time Warner Communications on Mount Hope.
Yeah,
I was watching the NBA playoffs between the Knicks and Rockets.
Yeah,
and then we all remember where we were when the verdict came down. It became literally.
Actually, I feel terrible for saying this. This just occurred to me.
Go ahead.
Me and the people I worked with on the radio, we were at lunch at Fox's Delicatessen out in Brighton, and a bunch of us from the radio station had all put in $5, guilty or not guilty, and then whoever was right, you go into drawing and you pull out they pull out a name, and the person that was right and got their name pulled out won the pot, and I won $45 that day.
Hey, all right.
For OJ being guilty or not guilty. I'm sorry.
Guilty.
Who says crime doesn't pay?
Make the people.
But I felt terrible about that there was 2 dead people, there was affected lives, and I won $50.
Yeah. There's perspective, isn't it?
Yeah.
Sherry, you and I had been texting on and off, and you were making some observations along the way. When that twist happened, tell me a little bit more about what you were feeling, other than just the disturbed aspect you'd mentioned a moment ago. Tell me what some of the things you were going through.
The thing that I think was the most disturbing to me, and what my takeaway from it was not a matter of was this moral, was this not moral in terms of punishment. It was by trying to punish this woman who committed this absolutely heinous crime, trying to give her a taste of it, did they make themselves no better than her? Her crime was that she did not help this little girl, that she filmed it, that she was a bystander, egged it on, and did nothing to help this child. But then they take this woman, they erase all memories of the crime to the point where she assumes this is her child, and she's having an emotional connection to these people that she doesn't really remember based on what she's assuming their relationship is and how she has to find this little girl and all this stuff. So when they then go and do this to her, how does this make them any better than her? They're turning themselves into monsters in order to do what they feel is a fitting punishment for a monster.
Yeah. And then, okay, go ahead, Ian.
No, finish your thought, and then I'll...
Well, my thought is okay, say this is reality. Say this was a documentary and not a piece of fiction put forth to entertain and enlighten the crowd. And say this is something that was really happening in today's society. What kind of rehabilitation is this supposed to offer? And then what message is it sending to the people who now watch this show on a regular basis? What message is it sending? Is it really a deterrent Or is it, hey, look how you can get your 15 minutes of fame? I don't know. I may be overthinking my overthinking because I'm good at that. But,
That did occur to me is that it basically, it depends on what we see incarceration's purpose. Is it punishment or is it rehabilitation?
Mm-hmm. I think in this particular case, it's just
punishment.
This is just straight up punishment. I am going to torture you for the rest of your life.
How were they any better than her?
Now I'm looking at the little blurbs about it. It says if someone has no recollection of their crimes, can they be effectively punished? Does our societal bloodlust for vengeance make us just as dangerous as the criminals we seek to discipline? It goes into Sherry's question.
That's a hell of a point.
And that's the thing that I got from it. I'm like, the people that are enjoying this and throwing the tomatoes at her or whatever when she's leaving, she has no full memory of committing this crime. She's getting snippets of videotaping this little girl, but she perceives it to be her daughter.
Right.
At that point, because she has relived this so many times that she doesn't know what her crime is anymore.
But she still did it.
Yeah, but
she's not aware she did it, though.
Yeah.
But she did it. But does the punishment fit her specific crime at this point? She has had electrodes put on her head at the end of every day to erase that day's memories of the events to relive it again. So does that make this punishment fit what she did?
Good point.
She doesn't
it's like
remember.
the Winter Soldier, if you think about it in the Captain
it's
America
kind of
movies.
like Bucky, that type thing.
He's not responsible.
And granted, at that point, yes, she did something that was unethical, unbelievable, whatever. And yeah, I think had she remembered this and was thought to think this out and not have any contact with the outside world, that would be one thing, because no one's helping her in that regards. That she probably would have been more punished and been able to understand it a lot more than this, because right now she has no clue.
Right. So the fact that she is no longer aware of her actions,
she thinks she's having a mental breakdown.
Okay. Does that? But so that absolves her of.
It doesn't
of the
absolve
crime?
her of the crime.
Okay.
Just that this
but it
particular
defeats the purpose of the punishment.
Okay.
Right.
Because
of the not punishment, the consequence.
Right, the consequence
for their
because
actions.
she doesn't know why this is happening to her. But if she had the memories of it, then yes, the punishment would be justified.
And then it throws it into the fact that this little girl didn't have an idea of why this was done to her.
Right.
So I can see that perspective of it.
Okay, so they're trying to basically
to say
pay it forward.
That the little girl had no idea why this was done to her, and now this woman has no idea why this is being done to her. But it's like two totally different levels.
So this episode of Black Mirror then is a commentary on several levels.
Lots of different things.
It brings in a lot of different things. It brings in ethics. It brings in crime and punishment. It brings in commentary in society. It brings in the emotions that can kind of go up and down the row. Am I missing a point? Am I missing something here? Is this?
Oh no, I had to go back to NCIS after this.
In regards to
straight murder, let's go with that.
The people participating in this, actually something came to mind. I was out one night a while back, and I saw somebody wearing a Zodiac Killer shirt.
Oh, geez.
And I'm thinking,
that's
looking
a thing
at this going,
days. Do you understand what that's glorifying?
Think about the people who died. The
Right.
family. It's not really funny.
No, that is actually something that I've been seeing those shirts pop up, and it's like, do you understand what that's representing? Have we become so desensitized? Have we become so saturated with information that this is the commentary that that we can make the most, that we're prone to this?
I think so.
Yeah.
Because and I made a point, and I actually angered quite a lot of people after the school shooting in Connecticut, I believe it was.
Oh, so Sandy Hook?
Sandy Hook,
the small children one?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because immediately after that, what was the reaction of the media? Gun control this, gun control that. So I, in one of my rare moments, took to social media and did this whole diatribe on, I think it's rather sad and pathetic that in the wake of such a tragedy, we have to turn it into some sort of contest.
A stump speech.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Why can't we join together as a country and feel for these people that have had these terrible losses instead of turning it into a political platform?
There you go.
And a lot of people got on. A lot of people did not take kindly to what I said. I didn't care.
Well, I always say, at some of those things with serial killers, show their victims instead of the serial killer. Go, this person had a life. This person had a family. This took it away from. Don't have sort of in a way glorifying the person.
Also, nowadays, it seems like, say, a week after Sandy Hook, there's another school shooting, and that one replaces that one in the news.
Yeah.
It's just a never-ending cycle of badness that we get, like you said, desensitized to.
And it's all over every media outlet. It's like...
Yeah. And everybody's got their different take on it, too.
Exactly.
And you know what? You know what we see is images.
Yep.
Images of everything, of every angle, of every
and then
face.
Going back to it, it's like, well, this is how they did it, and what would have happened had they done this instead. Now they start speculating.
Yeah, because that's always encouraging.
Could have been. Like, why are you doing this?
Yeah.
And I do fear for the weird kids too, because I was one that just because you dress
what's this
different.
was shit, dude?
No, now I'm an adult, weird adult.
Oh, okay.
So it's a little
He's
different.
not the weird kid anymore.
Yeah, but I still am weird. But to pick on, you get that kid who's just a little different in school and he's harmless, but they go, oh, he's probably dangerous, and he's not.
It's leading to a whole new generation of profiling.
Yeah.
I said, I'm the weird one that said, I think everyone in this group will enjoy this.
You know what? I tell you what, I got to see more of this show. I really do.
Yeah.
If this is the kind of storytelling that Black Mirror does, I'm all in.
I
need a lighthearted one.
There's
like one.
There's a few that are on the lighter end. There's one I almost, it was either going to be this one or the lighter-hearted one. I chose this one, and there's the third choice,
which is a good choice because it prompted a lot of discussion, but it's just not something that I would.
And the third one that was in my head is even darker than this. And nowhere in the discussion, the very first episode 1, season 1, winds up with the British Prime Minister having sex with a pig.
My Little Pony.
I got to admit, I watched that one, and that kind of turned me off of the show. I'm like, I don't think this is going to be good.
I don't know
why. I didn't even think about it until it came up. Like, watch this one. I'm like, all right, I'll give it another try.
Tanya, if you want to see one not genre related, but just I thought it's the funniest show I've seen in a long time. And you can't go wrong with Sir Ian McKellen, Vicious. I just laughed. It was like Ab Fab with guys.
No, Ian McKellen was in it. How could it be Ab Fab with
guys?
It
was great.
I'm sorry. We love you, Sir Ian.
So the Black Mirror, like you said, there's 12 or 13 episodes.
13.
And I think 11 of them, maybe 12, are spectacular.
Okay.
It's that one.
All right.
It's the one with the pig?
The one I didn't... that isn't, to me, spectacular. It's still okay. No? Yeah. Okay. All right.
All right. So I'm going to go around the room with the folks who have watched this show. And now, Billy, I know this is one of your favorites.
Yeah, I've seen this episode
so I'm not
going to... I'm
excluding you from this particular question. But for those, Sherry, for Tanya, for myself, for Zach, is this episode enough to get you into Black Mirror on a regular basis now?
I will go back and give it another try, yeah.
Yeah. How about you, Cher? I hear you giggling, too, by the way.
Yeah, I will. I think I will watch the rest of it. And I've got to say, Billy, I can't say I enjoyed this episode, but I'm really glad I watched it.
What's funny is I can't binge watch it because after each episode, I wind up going on the internet, reading reviews, thoughts, comments, and I wind up in a rabbit hole I wind up in a Black Mirror rabbit hole for each episode for at least an hour afterwards. So I can't watch one right after the other because you also do need to. Tanya's right. You do need to decompress after some of these.
It was like 4 episodes of NCIS after that. So
actually,
until I went to Knox.
So Zach's going back to it. Sherry's going back to it. Billy's up to date on it. I'm going back to it. Tanya, what do you think? You've seen enough?
I'm on the fence. I don't know.
I think you should probably watch another episode.
Probably.
Watch the very first episode.
Intersplice it with NCIS or Minds.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm definitely going to watch it.
It's not something that I wouldn't necessarily go back and not watch. I just think I have to be in the right frame of mind.
Watch the San Junipero episode.
Okay.
Season 3. I forget which episode number, but watch that one. Tell me.
And you can watch it out of order because they're not related to each other.
It's not like a Billy thing where you have to complete the whole episode.
Yeah, and there's no characters that are the same.
Oh, no.
Okay.
No.
I mean, I've got a party to go to today, so I have free time. I might watch a couple episodes.
They're just very chilling.
this must be deeper than the T.J. Hooker episodes I've been watching.
Well, there you go.
That would be a show I could probably go back and watch.
Hey, Ollie's, I found it at Ollie's, the DVD.
If this is the thing that we can relate to our readers or our listeners the most, our readers, well, when they're on Facebook, they're reading. Our listeners and our fans the most is find stuff that's going to always make you think. There's always check your brain at the door stuff. There's plenty of that out there. There's movies and there's TV shows and there's the serial stuff and the episodic things.
I need a lot more of that.
And there's a lot more of that. It's all it is out there. I mean, the stuff like Black Mirror is the exception to the rule nowadays. Lost kind of opened the door where it was different type of storytelling. And, and Game of Thrones has done, changed the paradigm of how we watch TV series and things like that. Always go forth and watch something that's going to make you think. And if you ever need suggestions, that's what we're here for, is we're going to make those suggestions. We're about to start a conversation as soon as we're done recording this one about what's next on the hit parade of homework. What are we going to do for our book club series? What's the next piece? And we're going to post that up on our Facebook so that you guys, like I said at the beginning of the conversation, so you would be able to be aware of this is what we're going to talk about. And be part of the conversation. And if there's something in particular that you, dear listener, has listened to, has seen, has experienced in some way, shape, or form, and you want us to talk about it, let us know.
And I know X-Files is on our list.
Yeah, X-Files is on the list. There's a couple of episodes there.
Leverage.
Actually, someone mentioned the movie Heathers.
Heathers.
Oh, wow, yeah, with Christian Slater. Yeah, absolutely.
I don't think I've seen it.
It's been forever since I've seen it, but that was definitely one of those really...
What's that one about?
It's a very interesting dark comedy on a take of high school life.
And actually, Sybil, who's normally on the phone with us, was going to binge watch the new reboot of Mystery Science Theater 3000. Excuse me.
Yep.
I wound up watching the first episode, and it is hysterical.
Oh, they did a great job.
God, I loved it.
I still haven't seen it, but when we went to the Riff Tracks reunion show, they brought in the new guy.
Yeah, Joan, he does a great job.
And I was like, you know what? This kid looks like he's going to do a good job. I'll give it a shot, but I don't know why. I just haven't started to watch it yet.
The host episode with the song "Every Country Has a Monster," classic.
That's great.
Just classic.
Sherry, how about you? You got any suggestions? Any final thoughts?
Well, I did have one thing I was going to ask you. I don't know who there is the Doctor Who fans, but I know you are, Chris.
Yep.
Did you recognize Victoria?
Oh, I did. I did recognize Victoria.
I thought she looked familiar.
She actually played the ghost in the BBC version of Almost Human. Yeah. I remember that, but I recognized her as a character actress. But what episode was she in Doctor Who?
She was in it was 10th Doctor episode Gridlock.
Okay.
Oh.
Yeah.
She was part of the couple that kidnapped.
Uh-huh.
Oh, that one.
Yeah, and that's when he was bouncing around between the cars that are stuck in traffic.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
He finds the cat people.
She walked on, and Chris and I went, wasn't she on Doctor Who?
A lot of the British people are in a lot of it's basically they have a stable of actors that are in everything these days.
They're everywhere.
Yeah.
They are. They really are everywhere. So yeah, that's awesome. Yes, Ian.
Back to the
No.
Okay.
Grounded. No, go ahead, buddy. Go ahead.
He's fired? I haven't fired anyone.
No,
I haven't fired anyone in a while.
I can't be fired. I'm grounded. He's kind of like,
yeah. I'm his dad, so I can
changing
do
the password to the computer. Anyway.
Yeah. You fire our daughter all the time.
that. Yeah.
Nah, I'm mostly the one on the computer, so that's a big threat for me. Anyways.
All right, so what's your point, buddy?
Back to the conversation, movies and shows that make you think.
Mm-hmm.
All you really need to do is watch like a short film of a magic show to make you like think of what's going on, and then kind of look up how to do it, and you blow your mind.
I used to do that. Actually, I got into magic when I was a kid because I was always looking, going, how do you do it?
And Now You See Me is a perfect example.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's one of your favorites.
Oh, 1 and 2. Oh my God.
Now You See Me is one. We'll put that on the list. We'll do a book club thing about the Now You See Me movies one of these days.
You're gonna have to invite me to that one.
Okay.
I will love you.
Well, you already do, so it's all good.
For now.
Yeah, for now. I keep telling him and his sister I have to be nice to you. You guys are going to be picking my nursing home eventually. All right, so
I would pick it now.
Yeah.
The crooked one, like you see on 60 Minutes.
For Billy and Tanya, for Sherry, for me, your host Chris, for Rob, for Zach, and for my bouncing baby boy Ian. This has been Monkey Business for another, I don't know how, we're close to an hour?
50 minutes.
Nice. Mm-hmm. And we are a product of the Mighty Monkey Corporation, the purveyors and producers of the Flower City Comic Con, coming at you June 9th and 10th, 2018 at the Rochester Riverside Convention Center. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Facebook, love us on Facebook, and we will see you guys all soon. Take care.